Now, as I head off to the Philippines this year in the burn months, I cannot wait for it. But in that moment of cannot wait for it, a lot of people have been linking this video over and they said, yo, why don't you go ahead and check out why this Filipino professor is about to reveal the genius of the Filipino. And I already know that they are incredibly intelligent, especially the amount of people that work abroad as nurses and so many important figures, especially musicians. I mean, don't even get me started. But he's essentially going to be explaining this and just, the culture all in all. And I cannot wait to see it because this really will make my experience when I go to the Philippines this year that much better and that much greater. So, without further ado, let's just check this out together, please. Let's go.
Filipinos do not realize that Filipino culture is one of the greatest, I'm very serious about it, one of the greatest in the world.
I'm glad that he feels that way.
I am Felipe De Leon Jr. I have been studying Filipino culture since the 60s. I've been to many parts of the Philippines trying to understand who we are and understand how Filipinos can be their better selves. At the very core, Filipinos are very highly relational people, wanting to connect all kinds of people in all levels, young and old, whether you are educated or not, from the poorest to the richest. Filipinos would like to bring people together. That's the very core of Filipino culture, a high degree of relationality, connectivity. This has to do with the philosophy of kapwa. Kapwa means the other person is also yourself. Filipinos believe that they have no separate existence. They're all one. That's the meaning of kapwa.
Didn't I just say that in my recent video where it's like when your crowd is Filipino? I was literally talking about that. Like, I always feel like when I watch these like music parts where they're all together in a crowd and just singing a song together, it really feels like they're one and the same. Like all together at once, they all know what they came to do. You know what I mean? They just feel it. It's just something that's just living inside them, and it's beautiful.
Responsibility is not only to himself, but to others. That's why, according to Claude Tayag, a culinary expert, our culture has no recipe for a single person. It's always a recipe for 6 to 10 people. Because we expect food to be shared. That's why any chance upon family is having dinner, you will always be invited to share the dinner with them. In a fiesta, even if you are not invited, you enter any house where there is food. Pakikipagkapwa is the basis of this. Because in an individualistic culture, a person feels separate from others. And therefore, there's no natural responsibility for everyone to serve. In a materialistic culture, where people are confined to their physical selves, you don't see yourself connected to others. Because connectedness has to do with a spiritual belief, no? That the Spirit of God connects us all to one another. So this is the very essence of Filipino culture. A culture of sharing, a culture that would like to bring people together.
That is so important, though. I feel like everyone needs to take these things and, just not believe like, it's just their culture.
Our language has been with us since around 2,500.
I want to say like you need to take it as like as something that you can aspire to be or grow as, right? Like I feel like sometimes people get that mixed up. Like I'm just not that culture. It's like, maybe if you like something from a culture, no one's saying go ahead and steal it. But it's kind of like, when you're becoming a person, you find certain people funny. Maybe you find a comedian funny. You have the same humor. It's not like you stole it. You just kind of grow as this person. You take little bits and you become you. You are not just, spawned and you have your personality. You went through experiences and you've seen and met people that you've enjoyed being around or, all these cases that you take little bits from. Not completely copied, but you become your own person. I know for a fact that's what happened with me. Like the amount of YouTubers from a long time ago when I was little that I would take little bits from. I don't act like anyone, but I have little pieces of everyone. You feel me? And I became me. And that's just how it works. So my point with this is saying that like with this kind of culture, something that's so beautiful, something that is really important, not just for a culture, but for a person to live a fulfilling life, a beautiful life, you have to know that this ability to do something like this and share with people and understand that family is very important, eat together and, try not to be separate from one another. All these things are so important. And if you try to build that into maybe your next generation, your family, that's a big thing. And that could like save lives, literally could. So I just think that it's very amazing and important to take this.
Has been with us since around 2,500 years ago. We were already Filipinos, even though we were not called Filipinos at that time. We were Austronesians. All our languages came from one island in Taiwan, and it's not Chinese, it's a Southeast Asian archipelago. A Southeast Asian place with at least 9 ethnic groups.
Wow.
And one ethnic group there was our ancestors. This ethnic group went down from Taiwan to Batanes, to the rest of Luzon, down to the Visayas, Mindanao, and Indonesia, Malaysia. So the languages of Indonesia and Malaysia came from us. We even brought these languages to the Pacific, Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, as far as Easter Island and Hawaii. And we brought these languages even to the west in Madagascar, Africa. That's why if you go to Madagascar, Africa, they speak a language similar to Ilocano, Tagalog, Kapampangan. It's called Malagasy. And that time alone, no, we were already highly relational because our language shaped us. We shape our language, and the language in turn shapes us. Filipino languages are the most highly relational of all the Austronesian languages. We have the highest number of conjugations. How many conjugations are possible in English? The word to eat. Eat, eating, ate, eaten. What else? I suppose you can have at most 12 conjugations of one word or one verb in English, but not more than 12. What about kain? The Tagalog word for eat.
Oh my gosh.
In less than an hour, you can come up with 100 conjugations of kain. Kain na tayo, makikain, nagsikain, napakain, palakain, ikain mo ko, nagkainan. So many.
Yeah.
No? So what does that mean? That means we are highly relational. From the very beginning, we're already highly relational. Because every conjugation is a kind of relationship.
Wow.
Magsikain tayo, all of us, let's go together and eat. No? O ikain mo ko, do the eating for me. That's another kind of relation. No? Napakain, well, I was compelled to eat because others were eating. Oh, that's another kind of relation. That's every conjugation is a relationship. Also,
that's
another
so
thing,
beautiful.
look at our languages. It has very fine nuances for relationships. I don't know of any single word in English that refers to a group action. A verb like magsilabas. Magsilabas. All of you go out. Or magkainan tayo. Together, let's eat. Or I don't know any word in English, any verb in English that refers to a collective action.
Yeah.
It's collective action. That means this is highly relational again. And that's in the language. So much
That's
in the
amazing,
language.
man.
Nagkainisan, magkasing ganda, magkasing pangit. When you're magkasing ganda, you're equally beautiful. Magkasing pangit, you're equally ugly. There's no translation in English.
I love this because it really does show you like how important history is in knowing of these things, because sometimes like some people may forget, right? Like that it's sometimes in your genes or in your blood, right? And no one's saying that you can't learn from this. Like I mentioned before, that you can learn from this and learn to like eat together and be one, and it's amazing and it's beautiful. But some people do forget that sometimes it's just built into you because of your language, because of these things. And this is why like history is so important to me. This is why I find it so fascinating and so important, because it really does shape us and the future. Because for example, people always wonder, why are Filipinos so nice or this or that, right? And the reality is, it is a culture, but not just a culture. It's a history. And to me, that is so, so amazing. So amazing. I love it.
There's no translation in English. These are verbs, adjectives that are mutually reciprocal, connecting people to one another. There's none of that in English, as far as I know. So we can see our relationality in our language, but we can also see it in our geography.
Oh my gosh.
People say that we're a divided country because we're an archipelago, but the truth is really different. People who live in a landmass rather than an archipelago will even be more divided if this landmass is so mountainous. A mountainous area that is just one landmass is where people will be so extremely divided, because it's mountains that divide. How can you easily go from one side of the mountain to the other side of the mountain? It might take you days before you can go to the other side.
Yeah.
But people in a short time learn to cross from one island to the other through water. Especially because of our origin from Taiwan, we really cross islands. And our ancient prowess in maritime navigation really made us very, very skilled in water. The Filipinos all over the world were master navigators on the sea.
Cool.
So, if you go to the Philippines, you will find that any two islands separated by water will speak the same language, because we are connected by water and divided by mountains.
Wow.
Look at Negros. Negros is divided by Mount Canlaon. The side that faces Iloilo speaks Ilonggo. The side that faces Cebu speaks Cebuano. Masbate, the one that faces Leyte Samar speaks Waray. The one that faces Bicol speaks Bicolano, and so on. This is true anywhere in the country. If two islands are separated by water, they are more unified. So it's not true that we are divided because we're an archipelago. In fact, we are more united because of being an archipelago.
Wow.
And so, because of our highly relational culture, our creative genius was able to flourish within the traditional Filipino cultures. And that's because in traditional cultures, the sense of community is very, very strong. This is the norm in all of our traditional societies. If there is a very strong sense of community, you feel more relaxed. You don't feel any tension, no?
Yeah.
Now, the more relaxed you are, the more open you are.
Yeah.
The more you are you. The more you can bring out who you really are.
Yes.
You become more expressive. You become more artistic. You become a natural artist. That's why in our traditional cultures, everybody is an artist, almost no exception. No matter what the work is of a person, you can be sure that he's doing some kind of art. Why?
Yeah.
Because the more close you are to one another, the more you would like to understand and do what others can do. If you are very close to the farmer, you will learn farming.
This is such a beautiful concept too.
You will learn carpentry. If you are very close to the arbolario, you will learn traditional medicine. If you are close to your mother, you will learn how she cooks. So closeness to one another makes you learn so many things as you grow up. This is the reason why the Filipinos are so versatile, multi-talented, simply because when you are one with the community and you like to relate to everybody, you have to know what others are doing. How can you be so close if you are only a very narrow specialist? For example, I can cite the example of Samaon Sulaiman, who was one of the awardees for the National Living Treasures Award in the Philippines called Manlilikhanang Bayan. Well, just like any male in Maguindanao society or even female, almost anybody can play the kutiapi. But Samaon Sulaiman happened to be the best. But do you know that he is not only the best in that instrument, he's also the favorite barber in his town. And also a Muslim imam or a priest.
That's amazing,
But
bro.
he was also a very good farmer. Because he grew up in such an environment where everybody is multi-skilled. And if you are really so relaxed, you can easily learn other skills. Because you will have no difficulty learning anything if you are doing it in a spirit of play.
Yeah.
In a spirit of play, everything becomes so easy. That's the reason, no? Our sense of community, which makes us very multi-talented.
So important. That's so amazing, man. This is the type of stuff that I love to see.
My Filipino dream is for Filipinos to be educated in their culture. Filipinos do not realize that Filipino culture is one of the greatest in the world because of the philosophy of kapwa. If we are one, we have a shared responsibility for one another. This is a very profound philosophy. A shared responsibility. It's not dog-eat-dog attitude. It's not survival of the fittest. It's not ruthless competition. It's cooperation, collaboration, harmony. Do you know how the world has survived? How humanity has survived? According to anthropologists, we have survived because of cooperation rather than competition. That's the web of life.
Yeah.
There's no harmony on Earth. No species would have survived.
Yes.
We have to emphasize that. That our culture is based on cooperation, harmony, bayanihan, doing things together for the common good. This is who Filipinos are, but Filipinos don't realize this. The more we realize it, the better for not only us, but the better for the world, because we can promote our culture everywhere. And we can be very proud of being Filipino.
It's beautiful.
Now, the Filipinos are not very proud of who they are, simply because they don't know who they are. Secondly, I'd like Filipinos to discover how different we are from one another. The first one is how we are one, no? But the second is our diversity. We have at least 131 languages in this country. Because the older a society is, the more languages it has. A young society will not have its own languages. Singapore, Australia, Canada, they still use English or French because they are new societies. That means if we have 131 languages, that means we are a very old culture. We are at least 50,000 years old. We are a new nation, but we are a very old people. If we have 131 languages, that means we have so many different cultures.
Yeah.
The basic subject,
which is also so beautiful,
to learn, aside from the concept of kapwa, how we are one, is how rich we are in terms of cultural diversity. Knowing all kinds of Filipinos and their cultural genius. This is the best way to make the Filipinos proud of themselves, because the more Filipinos know about kapwa, and the more they know about this diversity, how rich they are, the more they will love the country. And they will no longer fight against one another. They will have a strong sense of identity. They will know that all Filipinos are one.
This is one of the most beautiful videos I've seen. 100%. 100% one of the most beautiful videos. This is by the Filipino Story Studio as well. Beautiful. Beautiful. I loved it. Wow. Spectacular. You know, I've mentioned it many times how important it is to be together, because like he mentioned, man, I love that. You know, I've spoken to my friend about that so many times, and so many other people about that. I'm pretty sure even on this channel that we are made to be together. We are not made to be alone. There's no lone wolf. Like, this whole lone wolf ideology, it just never really was a correct way to even look at life, right? Be a lone wolf. Like, aren't lone wolves, I'm pretty sure that, correct me if I'm wrong, lone wolves, like, they were almost like kicked out of the pack, right? Because of how they were, or there's usually something wrong with them, right? Like, usually they have rabies or something like that. The wolf, I'm talking about literally the wolf. I'm not sure, right? But regardless, my point still remains that we are meant to be together. And I feel like how important this culture shares that is just as important as being together, because of the fact that some people don't know. Some people don't know, and they don't realize how important it really is. And this showing the history of it and how it basically had us survive, or had the Filipinos survive throughout life, that to me is one of the most beautiful things. And this is what I loved about this video so much. I loved it all in all. 100% loved it. Thank you for linking this, honestly. And thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hey, if you liked it, leave a like. If you loved it, subscribe. If you want more, let me know down in the comments below. And yeah, till next time, guys. Peace.